U.S. President Barack Obama says Washington will continue on the diplomatic route to deal with Iran's nuclear energy program.
I think there's no doubt that those who are suggesting or proposing or beating the drums of war should explain clearly to the American people what they think the costs and benefits would be. I'm not one of those people, because what I've said is that we have a window through which we can resolve this issue peacefully. We have put forward an international framework that is applying unprecedented pressure. The Iranians just stated that they are willing to return to the negotiating table, and we've got the opportunity, even as we maintain that pressure, to see how it plays out. I'm not going to go into detail.
Obama said his policy towards Iran is to prevent the country from producing nuclear weapons. Obama also slammed the Republican candidates for their, quote, blusters and big talk about a war with Iran. Obama said the GOP candidates are no commanders-in-chief. He added that the U.S. does not go to war casually, though it's sometimes necessary. Well, from San Francisco, I'm joined by Mike Gravel, former U.S. Senator. Welcome to the program, sir. Mr. Gravel, we have Barack Obama talking of continuing diplomatic channels with Iran, and yet on many occasions saying all options are on the table when dealing with Iran, specifically pointing to the option of war. So which one of his statements are we to believe?
Well, you're going to have to believe the last one, but it's somewhat hypocritical because he's really, with his comments that everything's on the table, he's left himself wiggle room to be able to tell the Jewish community, AIPAC, and primarily Israel, that he's prepared to support them. But what's happened now is he's trapped himself. If he could only realize that the best opportunity he will ever have politically to bring about peace in the Middle East would be to take on AIPAC, the Jewish lobby, head-on this issue, because the Republicans have gone crazy and are acting irresponsible. And I think very clearly, if the line is drawn with AIPAC and the Republicans against President Obama's reelection, he will win overwhelmingly. The people know that we have a disaster in Iraq, that we have a disaster in Afghanistan, yet his administration continues to put the best face on it possible and to curry favor with the Jewish community in the United States. And I would predict that if he would take it on face on, the Jewish community in the United States would not vote for war, nor would the Jewish community in Israel. This is AIPAC with Netanyahu and the leadership of Israel that are warmongers and want to go to war. But he's not drawing that line in the sand. What he's doing, he's trying to play both ends against the middle, talking about the rhetoric in the resolution. In fact, I might say that there's proof that he should take this tactic because they've only got 44 senators so far, and AIPAC is all over the Congress today. Thousands of people are roaming the halls of Congress trying to get their senators to vote for this resolution, and they've only got 44. Normally, on a Jewish issue like this, they could get 70, 80%, 80 members of the Senate to vote. But they can't do that this time, and that shows their weakness. The resolution that's being offered by Lindsey Graham and Joe Lieberman, and Graham just came back from a meeting with Netanyahu in Jerusalem where he's saying that, we've got to give assurances so that the people who want to avoid war, how hypocrite the whole statement is, and the resolution is one ball of hypocrisy that is totally one-sided against the position that Iran holds. But that's the facts we face. Obama is in a pickle that he's created by
Indeed.
what he said in the past, and he could get out of it if he were able to exercise some courage, because there's never been a better time to raise the issue of peace and war in the United States over AIPAC and Netanyahu's government pushing for war.
Indeed.
They will lose in the election.
Indeed. Well, speaking of election, it's an election year for America, and we're seeing the Republicans openly speaking about covert aggressive operations in and war with Iran. When it comes to such harsh words, just how can Obama fare out against the Republicans?
If he would step forward and admit that we are spending millions of dollars to destabilize the regime of Iran, that we have been nothing but the handmaiden to Israel's position towards Iran. All of the resolutions that have been passed at the UN Security Council have all been pro-Iran. The IAEA, now under the control of a Japanese appointee that we supported, and how we found out, he, in statements to the American ambassador, which has been released by WikiLeaks, he says that he favors the American and the Israeli position and will use his office in that regard. And that's exactly what he's just done with this terrible report, which is biased against Iran.
Right.
We come back to, it's very straightforward. Obama has a choice to fight it out politically, and he could win overwhelmingly, because he could take the position that we will not go to war on the flimsy evidence put forth by Israel.
And so with what has been discussed, and of course everything considered, how do you see Washington's approach towards Iran change or be modified in the foreseeable future?
Well, what's difficult is that you can say, based on the record, that AIPAC will prevail in getting the United States Congress to push for war. I don't think that will happen. I think the proof right now of their vulnerability is the fact that AIPAC can only get 44 senators to go on this terrible resolution, which is really a ball of hypocrisy.
Indeed.
And so all I can say is, if we had some cooperation from Iran in this regard, and we do, and they're willing to come back to the bargaining table, but also a way to discount the terrible quotes that are being used about the leadership of Iran wanting to annihilate Israel. That's a misinterpretation of statements in the past, and that should be cleared up once and for all right now, and that, I think, would help dampen any possibility of going to war.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Many thanks to Mike Gravel, former U.S. Senator from San Francisco.